Welcome to Forbidden Transformation. My name is Karen Holton, and I'm co-hosting with Chris Matthew of Forbidden Knowledge News. Our mission is to support and educate the people of Earth and to assist them to evolve and experience ET contact for themselves. In this way, we help to create and participate in the new positive timeline. In future episodes, we plan to offer more about our ET experiences, guests with common experiences and goals, more about the Quantum Health Transformation Program, and any relative news as it occurs. Chris, how you doing today?
Karen, thank you so much for doing this again. I'm doing good. I've been looking forward to this, and we're going to have some fun today. Preston's going to be a great guest. So yeah, everything is good.
Good. Do you have some announcements for us?
Yes, I do.
Okay.
Yeah. Again, I want to thank you, Karen, for putting the show together, and I want to welcome Preston Dennett. Before we bring him on, though, I just have a few announcements. First, become a premium member of Forbidden Knowledge News. My show, you get access to the most amazing content, presentations, and some very cool stuff to come. Join our censorship-free social media network. Just go to forbiddenknowledge.news and sign up right now. We're going to have some new content creators coming out. We've got a lot of exciting things coming in the future for our premium channel. So go check that out. Become a premium member. You won't regret that. I also just want to thank C60 Purple Power. It is a necessity in my house now. It has completely turned around my health. It's a super antioxidant, free radical sponge. There's so many benefits to your health. You should go and visit their website to learn more, c60purplepower.com/knowledge10, or use coupon code knowledge10. It'll get you 10% off of your order plus free shipping. Karen, do you have any announcements before I bring Preston on?
Yeah, I have a few. Thank you, Chris.
Sure.
So, as most of you know, this is a brand new show, so please help us to reach everyone by liking, subscribing, and sharing this show with your friends and your family. And this show is interactive, so please add your questions to the comment section. We also have a brand new service called Intuitive Time with Karen and Chris, which is available from my website. And I offer services of consultation and support for spiritual matters and ET contact. All the links will be in the description box below. So please support our work also by purchasing one of our beautiful Zendome's orgone generators. This one here is just another little example of a new one that we just got, that we just made actually. And they are available again from my website. So the links will be in the description box below. And back to you, Chris.
All right, thank you, Karen. Today I want to welcome Preston Dennett. He began investigating UFOs and the paranormal in 1986 when he discovered that his family, friends, and coworkers were having dramatic, unexplained encounters. Since then, he has interviewed hundreds of witnesses and investigated a wide variety of paranormal phenomena. He is a field investigator for the Mutual UFO Network, a ghost hunter, a paranormal research, and the author of 26 books and more than 100 articles on UFOs and the paranormal. His articles have appeared in numerous magazines, and his writing has been translated into several different languages, and he has appeared on numerous radio and television programs. His research has been presented in the LA Times, LA Daily News, the Dallas Morning News, and other newspapers. He has taught classes on various paranormal subjects and lectures across the United States, and he is also an award-winning science fiction writer. Preston also practices astral travel or out-of-body techniques, and he has had numerous of these experiences, and that is actually what we're going to discuss with him today. I'm very excited about that. Preston, welcome. How are you doing?
I'm doing good. Nice to talk to you again. And
yes, it is nice to talk to you. Yeah, I remember we had a fascinating discussion on my show. It was mainly, the first half was about the ET and UFO phenomenon, but we spent the last half on astral travel, and I find it so fascinating because I'd love to be able to do this for myself. I've been practicing. I can get to what you would call a vibratory state, but it doesn't seem that I can get myself any further than that or pull myself out of my body. So looking forward to this. This is going to be fascinating. First, I'd like to know, how did you first become interested in astral travel and out-of-body experiences?
I didn't believe in such things. I really didn't. It all stems really from one incident, the tragic death of my mother in 1984. A sudden heart attack. She was only 49 years old. So it was definitely a real shock, particularly because I did not believe in life after death or ghosts or anything paranormal. And had a real spiritual transformation over the next couple of years. Finding out UFOs were real, that was quite a shift. But what happened was, following her death, I started to have these really powerful dreams in which she came into my room and I would wake up. I thought I was awake, and she would say, "I'm fine, everything's fine." And then I would wake up for real. It was really disorienting because, I already thought I was awake, and really had the sense that it was her on some level. But I knew it couldn't be because there was no such thing as life after death. So I was at a real kind of crossroads, and started to research dreams because I'm thinking, I don't know what's going on here. And just became very interested in dreams and learned, of course, about lucid dreaming. Now, in my opinion, lucid dreaming is very much the same as an out-of-body experience. You're essentially becoming awake while you're unconscious. And I know that's kind of, an oxymoron, but you're much more awake than you are asleep. I don't know, it's hard for me to describe exactly, but really tried to have lucid dreams and was not having a whole lot of success until I hit upon a book by Robert Monroe. This is, now at least 3 or 4 years after my mom has died. Saw her ghost once, actually, at the service for her, and just assumed I was hallucinating, but it was a full color apparition. And ended up finding this book by Robert Monroe, Journeys Out of the Body. And he described his own experiences with astral travel. It was a very convincing, compelling book, and it gave exercises on how to do it. And I thought, okay, I'll give it a try. I'm not sure I believe in this, and it sounds a little scary, but it was interesting. And I have to tell you, the exercises we can get into, but it didn't take that long. It took maybe a month or two of doing these, meditations and visualizations, and started having really powerful dreams, lucid dreams. And then boom, had my first out-of-body experience. So that's how I kind of fell into it. I looked for it.
Very interesting. Now, would you say that your consciousness is actually traveling places? Do you think that your consciousness has the ability to travel not only different places on this planet, but even places off planet or different dimensions?
Yes, absolutely. It's like unlimited. Discovering that this was a real thing and a real phenomena was like discovering a whole new world. It really was. I cannot overstate how profound and life-changing and this is, or was for me, certainly. My first experiences were very brief. The first one scared me to death, honestly, because I was working hard, I'm doing the meditating and all of this, and then one night I wake up standing next to bed and I'm a little disoriented, very disoriented. I'm a little dizzy, having some vertigo and having trouble seeing, and finally get my bearings. And I realized that I'm standing next to my bed, and looking down, I can see myself under the covers. And I'm like, well, I've died. I've gone and died. And it sounds funny now, but let me tell you, it wasn't, because you get this cold chill and it's grim and a little, petrifying. I dived right back in, of course. It was just an automatic reaction, and felt a very strange sensation of reconnecting with my body, which was all kinds of twisting and buzzing and settling in. Kind of like putting on clothes, kind of, but in your body. And woke up, and I was so excited. I was absolutely elated. My emotions turned 180 degrees. I thought, wow, this actually works. I am going to try this again, and buckled down on the exercises and laid down one afternoon, flop on my bed, and immediately started feeling this very strong vibration. And this is what Robert Monroe called the vibratory state. It's well known among people who do this and in the literature. And it feels like you're, a mild electric shock is how Robert Monroe described it. I would say it's more like a severe electric shock. I honestly thought for a second I had swung my arm out and stuck the finger into the light bulb socket. That's what I thought was happening, until boom, I'm out of my body and I float across my room, out of control, across the hallway and into the bathroom, the restroom. I'm standing in front of the sink and I grip holding the sink and looking into the mirror, and I don't see anything. And I'm like, wow, I am doing this. And I'm doing this. I'm actually doing this. And felt this thing pull me back into my room. There was someone else in my room, by the way. Couldn't see who it was. And I plopped back into my body. And so the beginning, my point is, the beginning was really hard, and it was mostly the physical world for quite some time. And only for a few seconds. For the first year, it was like I built it up to a minute. But at some point, yeah, you are pulled into the higher realms, where we go when we die, which they're all different gradations, I guess, or levels. Really cool.
Yeah, and I guess that's a big part of me not getting there is the fear of, like you said, you thought you were dead. I'm afraid of, freaking out once I get there. But like you said, once you freak out, you kind of sucked right into your body, right?
Oh, yeah. Yeah. Sorry about that. Yeah, if you have like any real emotion, excitement or fear, or even think about your body, that can draw you right back.
Wow, very interesting.
Actually will draw you right back.
Karen, do you have any questions at this point?
I do have a couple questions, but before I give them, I have another one I just thought of. And that is, when I am astral traveling, I always get hung up on the power lines and then boom, back into my body. So I don't know why, I just seem to be a magnet for the power lines, and then I get anxiety and then boom, back into my body. Can you speak to this, Preston?
Yeah, I sure can. That's so funny you mentioned that, because you pop out of your body and you want to explore and you start to get good at it, and you're flying around and you're like, all right, I've walked through my house, I've walked through walls. And at some point you are brave enough to go outside your house. I would fly up through the roof, and of course there are power lines, and they would be obstructing my pathway. And I had read about, I think it was Robert Monroe or one of these other guys, perhaps Bruce Moen, who said you can just go through them. And I'm like, well, no, that's a little scary.
Mm-hmm.
I've always felt like you're perfectly safe when you're out of body. This is how I was taught, because you are not physical. You can't get hurt. So you can't injure yourself, and there's really no reason to fear. That's kind of how I got over the fear barrier. And at some point, I'm like, all right, I'm just going to fly through these telephone wires. I'm going to do it. And I did. And there was an electric light, a little blast of light and a little zit, zit sound. And I'm like, wow. And I got through it. And I'm like, okay. And then I did it again, and there was no effect. And I started to realize, a lot of it is at what vibratory level you're at.
Mm-hmm.
And thought has a way of creating reality, especially when you're out of body. And if you think you can't get through a wall or through an electric lines, you can manifest that. But the truth is you can. The out-of-body experience is unlimited, and it's absolutely as safe as sleeping. We're doing it anyway. We're all doing it every night.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah. So do you see a difference between astral projection lucid dreaming and remote viewing, because I have quite a lot of experience with lucid dreaming and a combination of that and remote viewing. And so I can go to a lot of places and see a lot of things, but I don't, when I'm experiencing it, I don't feel like I'm out of body. It's really weird. I tend to sit very quietly or lay very quietly, and then, or I'll be doing something else, and then all of a sudden, boom, I'm gone. And it's more real than me sitting in this chair right now talking to you. In fact, my physical 3D reality just melts away and the lucid dream takes over. And within the lucid dream, sometimes I just go with it and experience what I feel my guides are providing me somehow with this experience for me to learn something. But often I can go places and see things, even just walk around the outside of my house or anything. So clearly I would be astral projecting, or am I? I'm not sure. Is there a difference between those three, or are they all kind of looped together and in the part of the same phenomenon?
Yeah, well, we know what they're looped together. I have to tell you, I've read a lot about this, and there is some, discussion, I would say. I wouldn't call it hotly contested, but there's a lot of debate about lucid dreaming and out-of-body experiences and remote viewing and their relationship to each other. Yeah, they're clearly related. Remote viewing is something I have done successfully, and I think it's a form of astral travel. You're not sending your whole self out, your entire awareness. You're sending a tendril. As far as lucid dreaming and out-of-body experiences, some say lucid dreaming is sort of an inferior form, and you're like almost there. And others say, well, no, lucid dreaming is actually a more advanced form of out-of-body travel. I think they're largely the same. The real difference is when you're lucid dreaming, you're projecting the environment around you that you sense as internally generated. That doesn't mean you're not out of body. I think, in fact, most lucid dreams do take place on the other side, as we would think of it, or in the next dimension, not the physical world. So I think they're very much the same thing. It's really interesting. You can transform a lucid dream into an out-of-body experience through a number of techniques, such as going through a window or a wall. You'll pop out into the physical environment, or spinning, or just making a command for all illusion to disappear. So there's definitely, they're like this together. I mean, they are absolutely inextricably connected. Yeah, just as difficult. I mean, it's the same process to achieve them. It's really all about, transferring your awareness into this next state.
Oh, Chris, I can't hear you, Chris.
I'm muted. Sorry about that. Excuse me.
Okay.
I just want to let everyone know in the chat that if they have any questions for Preston, please go ahead and leave those questions in the chat, and we will get to those as soon as we see them. Anything else, Karen, before we move on?
Well, I have a few more questions, but I don't want to, take up, I want you to ask your questions too, but so this was sort of already addressed, but how can people use astral projection to make contact with their guides and other higher beings like interdimensionals and ultra-terrestrials? What do you recommend for people who want to pursue that?
Yeah, it's one of the fun things you can do when you start going out of body. And the truth is, we are already in contact with our guides. We are all already conscious on the other side. We're not remembering it. That's sort of the main problem with this. So the real trick is, once you start doing it, you will probably have guides there with you. And because they know you're trying to do this, they're working hard to help you achieve it. And they're going to do whatever they can. Some people have a spirit guide with them the second, from day one, and they're side by side, hand in hand, the entire time. sometimes your spirit guides will they'll stand off and let you do it yourself. In my own experiences, I perceived that I was largely alone out there. I didn't have a lot of experience with spirit guides in the beginning, but as I got better at it, I'm like, hey, what's going on? All these other guys describe spirit guides. And so I did learn techniques. And you can just, the trick with out-of-body travel and astral travel is setting your intention, making a plan, know what you want to do. And so the second you become lucid, you're not disoriented. You know exactly what you want to do. You want to meet your spirit guide. And with that intention, you don't say, can I meet my spirit guide? You say it, now I meet my spirit guide. Mm-hmm. You set that intention in a way that the universe is kind of like a biofeedback machine. You say, I want to, you'll be in that state of want. You want to actually do it. Yeah, it's the most amazing thing. You just call it out and you'll meet directly with enlightened masters. That happened to me a couple of times. That was so cool. And your loved ones, your deceased loved ones is definitely one of the best things about astral travel. And that was my whole motivation the entire time. I would always call my mom, where are you? Where are you? I'm out of body. But that is a great technique. And especially if you're a beginner, if you want to go out of body and you haven't had this experience, and I know you have, but a great way to do it is to concentrate on a deceased loved one who is on the other side and you have a connection with, and they will come and take you to the other side, no doubt. Probably 50% or more people who have a loved one died do have dreams about them. Mm-hmm. That's what's happening there. So that's my favorite technique. I call it the love bridge. Mm-hmm. And works perfectly.
Oh, it sounds wonderful. It sounds like just what we need.
Yeah, that sounds really cool. I do have a question from the chat here. Connor Newberry asks if you have explored any secret places on Earth or anywhere you've been interested in using astral travel, any kind of like military bases or ET bases or anything like that.
Yeah, that's a great question because I've read a lot about this, and there are a lot of people out there who are really good at this, and I still kind of consider myself, maybe not a beginner, because I have, but I'll read something about someone, going to the moon or something. I'm like, well, hey, that sounds interesting. I'd love to do that. And that was my first real, let's do something very bold, because I'd go out of my house and I go to my family's homes. I once went from LA to San Diego. I knew someone there. That was a trip, just watching the world rush by and then boom, you're there. And, that sort of thing. Various places on Earth, but read about Robert Monroe, and he had gone to the moon and he had sent other people to the moon. I'm like, wow, that sounds like a really cool idea, and tried to do it. I think it took a couple of attempts, but one day I popped out, or one night actually, and it was a full moon, and I'm like, wow, there's the moon. That's right. Want to go to the moon. So I'm like, take me to the moon. Let's go to the moon. I'm setting the intention. And sometimes you're traveling out there astrally, and you're moving at 5 miles an hour over the landscape. And that's kind of what was happening. I'm like, well, I'm gonna have to go a lot faster than this, because I knew from experience I could only do this for, well, at that time, 10, 15 minutes, perhaps, an hour. So I had to, speed things along. So I'm like, faster. And yeah, my speed picked up, and then boom, I'm barreling towards the moon, and this thing is getting larger. And I'm like, holy cow. And then boom, it's below me, and I'm coming in for a landing. And I'm just breathless with excitement. I cannot believe it. And I touch down. I land on the, I want to swear, this was so exciting. I can't even tell you. This was unbelievably exciting to me. And I'm standing there looking around at craters. I'm on the frickin' moon. And I'm thinking, no one's ever going to believe this. No one will ever believe this. But I went to the moon. And so I'm looking around there. I'm like, this is so cool. And I'm flying and over the craters, and it's just pretty much lifeless looking, lots of gray dirt and mountains and hills and, just what you'd imagine you'd see. And looked ahead of me, and there was a sort of rolling hills, and nestled among them was this perfect dome made out of what looked like the same material, kind of rock, but it was obviously artificial. So that freaked me out. I'm like, wow, that's a structure. And I went straight towards it. It was, a couple hundred yards away, and I dived inside and got a real shock because there were people in there, or what I perceived as human males from the military is what I perceived them to be. Can't say I saw their faces, but they were just normal looking men in uniforms from what I remember. And there was tables, 2 rows, was rather long. And I knew immediately this was a science lab. And I looked down at one of the tables, and your vision is a little strange when you're out of body. It's hard to focus sometimes. So I'm like trying to focus on what's on this table because I couldn't quite make it out. And finally I saw it was like a person with an animal parts attached to them and being operated on. It was a horrific genetic experiment. And so that freaked me out, and I tried to destroy it and knock tables over, and which you can't do out of body, but you can think you're doing it, if you know what I mean. You can think you're opening doors and you project little things. So I started to lose consciousness and ended up cutting the experience short. So that was my first real experience to visiting other places. But yeah, it didn't stop there. I went to Area 51 as well.
Oh, cool. Yeah. Could you tell us a little bit about that experience?
Yeah, that's just something I'd read about. I think this is what always inspires me. I'm like, hey, someone else did it. Let me try. Because Fate magazine, a leading paranormal magazine, had published an article. Actually, what they did is they asked readers to visit Area 51. Give us some psychic impressions, remote view it, go out of body, however you work. Tell us what you think of Area 51. And they got a bunch of responses. All women, by the way. It was like 10 or 20 women responded, and some remote viewed and some did psychic, but some went out of body as well. And they got all these impressions, which were fascinating because I knew quite a bit about what the whistleblowers were saying about Area 51 and what's going on there in terms of how it has several levels underground that do genetic research and reverse engineering of craft, and that live ETs are working with humans and biological weapons and so on. And these people got those impressions very clearly. It was fascinating. They said something as well that I'd never heard before. 3 or 4 of them said pretty much exactly the same thing in different words, was that the humans who work at Area 51 have been implanted or intervened with by ETs to have their health improved so that they don't get sick or they live longer. I'm like, wow, this is so interesting. So I'm like, let's do it, and I finally, takes a couple of tries, woke up one morning, it was early morning. That's when I'm usually successful at this. I've slept all night and I'm super relaxed and I get to sleep in, and felt the vibrations and popped out and went right over through the roof and straight up. And I'm about 50 feet over the house. It's beautiful. Everything's so beautiful when you're out of body. You're going up a vibration, everything has just sort of supernatural glow around it. And it's crisp and clear. I'm slightly nearsighted, but your vision improves to super normal. I mean, you can see better. So I'm like, wow, this is so beautiful. This is so beautiful. But what did I want to do? And remembered that Area 51 was my goal. And so I made that demand. And a lot of people will have spirit guides and they'll just grab your hand and go. So I guess mine's pushing me from behind or something. I don't know. But I went into this spiral. And I'm like, wow, this is very cool. And I'm spiraling up into the sky pretty quickly, and boom, hit this sort of barrier and popped through. This is what happens when you start getting good at traveling. You don't actually just mosey along, you teleport. You actually, blink from one place to another. Distance is an illusion. It's a product of the physical plane. And in fact, it's not true. We're all together in one tiny ball of consciousness. We're all very connected. The universe is the size of a dot because it's infinite. So size makes no sense. Space does not exist on the other side. This is why you can see the past and the future and travel great distances.
Same thing with time, right? Time really doesn't exist like we perceive it.
Right. People will pop out of body and they'll find themselves, in the past. They'll walk out into the room and they're like, hey, I didn't have that couch. I don't have that couch anymore. And so little things like this can happen. It's fascinating. So I'm like, I pop out and I'm over the Nevada desert. I am over Area 51. I recognize it immediately from pictures. There's, hangars and a big desert floor, and I'm coming down next to one of these hangars. And I come in for a landing, and again, I always get that unbelievable sense of almost, well, not euphoria, but incredibly excited and almost just breathless disbelief that this is actually happening. And I'm like, wow, okay, here it is. And my first impression was this place was a lot bigger than I thought it was. And I knew it was big because I'd driven there and seen it from the outside. And it's huge. I mean, Nevada is, I think, 86% government owned, and a lot of it is Area 51. It would take you days to drive around it. But what shocked me was how far apart these hangars were from each other. And other little details like, okay, I saw people walking, just a couple in a camouflage uniform or soldier type uniform. I'm like, wow, this is real. Okay, I'm really here. And I probably should go into the hangar now and see what's up. And got this thought like, well, I wonder if there's grays there. There's gray ETs probably in there. And one of the accounts in Fate magazine, the lady who had gone out of body went through Area 51 and she saw grays there, and they turned and looked at her. And they were aware that she was there and were not happy about it. And I had that thought and it freaked me out and it pulled me right back. I was so angry, but I went back. I did. And I have to tell you, I didn't remember it as a clear out-of-body experience. I'm pretty sure it was one because it had that flavor. You start to be able to tell when you remember an out-of-body experience through a dream. And this is what happened, because often, these are hard to remember. We all have out-of-body experiences, like I said, every night, and we're not remembering them. So I had this sort of lucid dream half-remembered out-of-body experience where I was in Area 51, and this time I did have a guide, and there were others with me, just a small group of like a half dozen of us, and a guide who took us along the perimeter of this underground area. And I have to tell you, I was really shocked because inside, I got the impression that this thing was like having the, the Empire State Building go underground. This was like like a mall, underground. This was an entire city block type of thing going underground, several stories. And I was just really shocked at how big this thing was. And we're traveling down these corridors, and I was most impressed by not only its size, but the dark energy of it. It didn't feel like a fun place. There wasn't a lot of plants or laughter or children or good energy. And so it was a heavy, hard energy, and that was really affecting me. And I think that's why I had a hard time remembering it, because I'm pretty sensitive to that sort of thing. And what I do remember very clearly is being taken to a room, and they wanted to show me this person. And it was a worker, someone who had lived their entire life in this complex, had, I'm guessing, been born there and would die there, and knew nothing about the outside world. They were genetically deformed, very short, misshapen face, limbs were not right. I don't think it was an ET. I think it was a human genetic experiment that had somehow gone awry. I don't know. I honestly don't know. But I was horrified because of the way that this person was being treated. And, because this was obviously a real person. And I just felt, my heart went out to them. And I couldn't believe it. And that was about all I could take. So that's how that experience ended. And I didn't go back.
Wow, that is super fascinating. And I'm like, I'm remembering something you said earlier, how when you were talking about if you want to meet your spirit guides, you just say it's going to happen. That's kind of how it happened for me with my first contact experience with meditation. Before I went into it, I just kind of talk myself into, yes, this is going to happen today. I really want this bad. And it did, so I find that very interesting. That little fact that if you just, tell yourself it's going to happen, it makes the probability much more. Karen, I know we have a few minutes left. Do you have any other questions before we get to my last questions?
Yes. Well, first of all, it's not really a question. I want to tell you about how I personally first found that I could go out of body. And what I was doing is there's a place in the Comox Valley that has these really shallow rapids, and they have these little islands of rock that you can go and lay down on in the summertime and look at the sky. And I saw an eagle flying way above me, and I wanted to see what the eagle saw. And it happened very quickly. Boom, I was seeing myself down on the rock, and I was flying around and around. So I realized I was somehow sharing consciousness with this eagle. And another time, it was at night, and I was in bed, and my cat was chasing something underneath the bed, and I wanted to see what my cat was seeing. And poof, I was seeing through my cat's eyes. And I never realized this before, but spiders have these little strips of like iridescent that cats can see, but we can't. And so the cat was chasing a spider around, and I never knew that that's how cats see spiders at night. I didn't know that until I did that. And so that was really exciting, but I didn't actually put two and two together or think that I was doing astral projection. So I'm wondering, do you think that's astral projection, Preston, or what is that?
Yeah, I think it's a form of it. I got an instant impression of you with a past life as a Native American, because that's really a shaming thing. And going out of body, you start to remember all your past lives. It's really cool. That's one of the fun things you can do. And yeah, you can also enter into animals' bodies. I've done that a few times. A horse once. Wow. I think that was the really most vivid. Mm-hmm. But yeah, that's a pretty highly skilled thing. I do have memories of a past life where I was a Native American, and so I think you're right on the money with that one. Oh, cool. Yeah, because sometimes I do get impressions, and I'm like, wow. Yeah. And that one was pretty strong. So yeah, I think it is related. This stuff carries through with past lives. And I think you get better and better at it. Some people do have lifetimes which are very spiritual, and they're kind of meant to explore that. Or sometimes no. I mean, my sister is very much an earth woman, I guess, very grounded. And she's like, why don't I have any psychic experiences? And complains about that. So I don't know. I think for some people, it's definitely a calling. And I'm definitely getting that with you. Yeah. Yeah, I really like that kind of stuff a lot. And the other thing I wanted to mention is I do some exopolitical work on a very large ship that's quite far away from our star cluster within our galaxy. And it's interesting that and I usually do this work at night while I'm sleeping, so I'm not consciously choosing to do it. I signed up for it and I do it. But it's interesting because when I go there, they always know when I'm there. And I'm not going in my body. I know I'm going for those particular experiences. My consciousness is going there, and they totally know when I'm there. And there's also been times where I've just wanted to be on the big ship because I really miss the environment. It's so different than here. And
all of a sudden I can see myself going, I'm actually kind of flying as I go down the hallway, and then I'm coming across my ET brothers and sisters, and they're all looking at me because they know I'm there, even though like they know I'm there. So I just thought that was really cool, and that also goes to it with what you just said. But I have one final question. A lot of people, including myself, are concerned about 5G and some of these higher frequencies and nano frequencies and stuff that technology and is being rolled out in technology. I'm wondering two things. One is, will this prevent us from doing this kind of work, out of body experiences? And the other thing is there a way, if we are able to go out of body, that we can heal ourselves so that we're not having as much destruction upon our biological body from these technologies? Is there any way we can heal ourselves, protect ourselves? Do you have any thoughts about that, Preston?
Yeah, I'm concerned that, there are elements in our society that do not have our highest good in mind. I don't think you'll ever be able to stop people from doing what they want to do, period. The power of the people is the strongest. And ultimately, I think good wins. So I'm not too worried about, people who are trying to prevent us from going out of body, because it won't work. No, you can go out of body under almost any circumstance, whether you're under the influence of drugs or alcohol, it still works. You don't have to be an adept or a holy person. It's a natural human talent, and anyone can do it. So I'm not too worried about that. As far as healing, that's what's one of the greatest things about the out-of-body experience. And I collected all the accounts that I could find, and I found over 20 cases, I think, where people have healed themselves of chronic conditions and injuries and colds and a whole list of illnesses, like sarcoidosis, which is a liver disease. Bruce Moan cured himself of that. Another guy was having trouble with multiple sclerosis, was able to get his symptoms to subside. Marilyn Hughes talks about how she healed herself of a cut. There are many cases like this in the literature. And what you find is when you go out of body, you are drawn towards healing people. Sometimes this will happen. That's happened to me a couple of times. And I heard about healing temples, so I had to do that. And it was one of the most beautiful experiences in my life. I was drawn to this temple, which was a round dome, and placed down in the center of it, there were these counter-rotating strips of like metal, and just this beautiful filigree. It was the most beautiful thing I've ever seen. I couldn't sustain the energies. It was too beautiful for me. I just didn't feel worthy. So I had to get out of there at some point. But yes, there are many techniques you can use. All you have to do is see that the astral body is the superior body. It's our real body. This is what our physical body is modeled after. So healing yourself is really just bringing those astral energies and connecting them to your physical body. And it opens up all your chakras. This is how people actually physically levitate, and healing can take place spontaneously just from going out of body, period. So you'll feel those energies, and just try to bring them in. There are a lot of cases of people healed from near-death experiences. Mm-hmm. I know a personal friend healed of terminal cancer after having a near-death experience. And if you look at the near-death books, like all these people are suddenly cured coming back from a near-death experience. What's happening? They are resonating back with their astral body. So just imagine yourself in perfect health. Raise your vibration. There are people who walk on the astral plane. I can see that you are doing this largely. And this is where you get to the point where you can bilocate. There were saints who could actually be physically in two places at once. They had essentially learned how to duplicate their physical body and bilocate. People can go out of body while walking around. They're that good at it. They can stay aware in their physical body and do astral travel at the same time. I did that like once or twice. It was very disorienting. But yeah, the possibilities are unlimited, especially for healing.
That is so awesome. Yeah, I'm going to keep practicing these techniques myself. And before we close out, I do want you to go over some of the best techniques that you use. But before that, I have one more question. We talked about this on my show, and you mentioned it earlier about saving lost souls. I think this is one of the more fascinating aspects that I find of it, that you can actually go and help these lost souls that are trapped or stuck in a certain place or dimension, that you can actually help them escape that and free themselves and go to a higher dimension. Could you talk about that a little bit before we close?
Yeah, sure. This is something I think once you get good at this, you will be drawn to doing. And certainly I've read about people who are like really good at it. And they're like, oh, I have to go rescue more or less souls. I thought that sounds interesting. And I'd actually been doing it. I didn't realize it. I would, land down groups of people. I'd be like, you want to fly? Let's go fly. And we'd all go flying together, and then they'd disappear. And didn't realize that that's probably what was happening there, but called out one time. I'm like, I want to try this. Take me to a lost soul. I'd like to help. And was taken to a little girl who had been tragically murdered. That was my impression, that she was buried under this house and was still there. Just this poor little 6-year-old girl. And I'm like, you want to fly? Let's get out of here. And she's like, no, she's very scared. And I'm like, well, let's go see your mommy. I'll take you to your mommy. And she trusted me enough to do that. I grabbed her little hand and off we went, which is just a process of going straight up really fast and visualizing the other side, or not even visualizing, you just go there. And boom, you usually just pop out and you're in the heavenly realms. I'd often read about this, that people who save souls, and they said, just be aware at some point they're going to let go and you won't see them anymore. And Robert Monroe he couldn't follow them. I'm like, all right, well, I'm going to be able to follow them. I've been to the other side many times, but that's exactly what happened. We got there and then boom, she let go, and I didn't see where she went, but I'm assuming, yeah, she got there. It's a big thing. There's quite a number of people who die and stay on Earth because they never even considered the possibility that they were dead. A number of them are pretty low vibration and have trapped themselves in a circle of greed or lust or hatred or anger. And so there's some lower realms, hellish realms out there, and some unsavory characters. And you'll encounter that as well. So saving lost souls is a big deal. And yeah, pretty important stuff.
Very cool. And the last thing I'd like to close with you on tonight is if you could give the people some of your best techniques to achieve these out-of-body or astral states. What do you do?
Yeah, one thing you need to know is it takes no special talent. 2 is you got to overcome your fear. That fear is the main barrier. It's perfectly safe. Fear and laziness and thinking you probably can't do it. So move past that and look at the incredible benefits for a second of healing and meeting your lost loved ones and meeting your spirit guides, learning about past lives and increasing your lifespan and just doing amazing things, fulfilling fantasies. So there's all kinds of wonderful stuff you can do, and that's very important that people realize that this is an easy, natural human talent that you are already doing anyway. So the technique 1 is remember. You got to start remembering your dreams. You should remember at least 4 or 5 dreams a night before, not before you start doing this, but once you are remembering, 4 dreams a night, you're ready for sure. So keep that dream book by your bedside and remember every dream you can. And also look for anomalies within these dreams, because this will wake you up to becoming lucid, which brings me to the second step. And this is something you do during the day. And this is the real secret to going out of body and lucid dreaming. Ask yourself as often as you can per day, but if you can set up a routine, that'd be great. Like every time you walk through a doorway or go to the bathroom, or every hour, or at least 4 or 5 times a day, ask yourself, am I dreaming right now? Could I possibly be out of body at this very second? It sounds like a ridiculous question, but you know what? You have to take this seriously, and you have to look around and see if there's any anomalies, if the world looks any different, and you want to do what's called reality testing. Try to fly. Jump up. If that's too embarrassing, take a pen or a ball and throw it up into the air and see if it floats. Try to poke your finger through the wall, because you can penetrate objects when you're out of body. Those are 3 really good ways of reality testing. Pull on your finger, see if it stretches out. Because we know we're not out of body right now. I mean, you can feel it, right? But you have to seriously suspend disbelief for a second and just say, this could possibly be true. I might be out of body right now. Let's test this. This is really important. And if you can do this 3 times a day, you will do this at night. And what will happen is you will be at work, at your office or wherever, waiting to go home, and you're grumbling, and then you're like, all right, let's do this stupid reality test. And you throw something into the air and it floats, and suddenly everything fades away, and actually you're out of body. You're hovering above your bed or what have you. It is the most incredible shock you will ever have. Suddenly realizing you're out of body when you thought for sure you were awake. Because the problem is our dreams are so real, it never even occurs to us to consider the fact that we might be dreaming or out of body. So that's the real technique, and that's the best one. So more you can say it throughout the day, the quicker your success will be. But the real standard technique people use is physically relaxing, mentally relaxing, and it's visualizations and affirmations. Physically relaxing, we all know about. Just lay down, relax your muscle groups one by one, over and over again for 10, 20 minutes until you start to feel heaviness or lightness, buzzing, vertigo. You want to get to the point of a real strong vibration. But just relax to the point where you can't feel your body. And you can always, always get more relaxed. But at some point, you have to stop concentrating on your body. You have to let go, turn your attention 180 degrees away from your environment, away from your body to the interior of your consciousness, your mind's eye, which most people perceive like right in their head or their eyes. But just turn your attention away from the outside world to the inner world and your thoughts, and look at your thoughts. At this point, if you're relaxed enough, your thoughts should start to come alive. You can see colors, you can see faces, you can see your thoughts start to manifest. You'll hear voices, you can create songs in your head, this sort of thing. And if you're at that point, you just want to step away from your thoughts, don't get too attached to them, don't fall into the dream. Instead, take those thoughts and replace them with visualizations, affirmations. So you want to intend to do this. You want to desire to do it. You want to imagine it. You want to wrap all those together and say, tonight I go out of body. I am going out of body tonight. I'm going to remember everything. Take me out of body. Demand it, wish it, feel it, focus on it. It's all about really putting your willpower into it. And then you do the visualizations. And this works really well. Anything involving movement. Imagine you're on a swing set, going back and forth. Imagine you're jogging down a pathway as fast as you can. Imagine you're twirling in place like Wonder Woman. Imagine you're on the bow of a boat going up and down in the waves, an elevator going up, an escalator, holding a balloon. All these techniques work. You can imagine a pole or a rope in front of you and pull yourself out. I did that. Imagine rolling out of bed. Any movement works. Also, another technique is visualizing a person who's generally deceased works best, but you can visit alive people just as well, or a place you know really well. And it's astonishing because you'll see it appear in front of you like a picture, and you step into it and boom, you're there. So that's visualization techniques. And what will happen for often people, just do the techniques, don't expect to zoom out of body, just do them for 10 minutes each night and go to bed, and you'll wake up out of body in the middle of the night. That's a lot of what happens for beginners. It's also great if you can do it early in the morning. Wake up at 5 a.m., take a little walk, get a glass of water, and watch 5 minutes of TV or something just to bring in a little bit of consciousness, and then go back to sleep. That works really well. So there's all kinds of little techniques, but that's the basics of it.
Very cool. Karen, did you have any other comments or questions before we close out with Preston?
No, but I am hoping, Preston, that you will tell us and the viewers where we can find you, where we can get your books, anything else that you want to tell us. And Chris, do you have Preston's information that you can get to me so I can make sure it's in the
yes, I sure can. I'll send you all his stuff that you can put in there.
Wonderful.
Yeah, I appreciate that. I do have a website. If you Google my name, it should take you there. The actual address is prestondennett.weebly.com. Got all my books there, and you can definitely contact me through my website. I'm helping a number of people to learn how to do out-of-body travel. I think it's really rewarding. I hope whoever's listening to this at least gives it a try. Don't be afraid. Skepticism and fear and laziness are the main barriers. And if you can get past that, you are there. And it's a natural human talent. I can't say that enough. It's super easy to do, and it will change your life. I mean, I get to visit my mother regularly. You can't imagine the kind of reunion that it is to meet a deceased loved one, or visit your spirit guides, or learn your past lives, or talk to these enlightened masters and healing temples, and you go to these higher realms, the Akashic Library. Oh my God, the stuff you can do is unreal, and I cannot recommend it enough. So please do try. It'll change your life for the better. I promise.
Awesome stuff. Preston, thank you so much for joining us. We definitely love to have you back on in the future, and that was fantastic information.
Hey.
And Karen, we'll turn it over to you to close out.
Okay, yes, thank you, Preston. I'm a big fan of yours, and you've encouraged me a lot and to press further than where I have so far. So I just appreciate you so much. Thank you. Okay, Chris, I just want to reiterate, because it's a new show, what we offer and what to expect. So we're going to continue bi-weekly Forbidden Transformation shows on Sundays at 12 noon Pacific, 1 p.m. Mountain, and 2 o'clock Central Time on this YouTube channel. Bi-weekly doesn't mean twice a week. It means basically twice a month, every 2 weeks. We all, as I mentioned at the beginning of the show, we now offer consultation and support services. So reach out to us if you would like some help. And we now have a Forbidden Transformation Facebook group. It's a private group, but it offers peer-to-peer support. And if you'd like to be a member of that group, let us know, and we'd be happy to admit you to the group. Also, for the near future, we plan to add a phone-in component and multi-stream to many popular platforms on future shows, because we want you to share your experiences with us. And as you all know, we've had some technical issues. We've been working them out week by week, and finally we're live today. I'm so happy about that. Our next show, episode 4, will air October the 11th, again at 12 noon Pacific, 1 o'clock Mountain, or 2 o'clock Central, on this YouTube channel, www.youtube.com/c/Karen Holton TV, in case you see clips or parts of this and you didn't know where my YouTube channel was. And all of the links to our information and services will be in the description box below. And if you'd like to contact us regarding the Forbidden Transformation show, you can email us at forbiddentransformation@gmail.com. And that's all I have. Chris, do you have anything else you want to add?
No, just if you have any questions for me or any guest suggestions for this show or Forbidden Knowledge News, you can also email me at forbiddenknowledgenews@gmail.com. And no, that is it for me. Karen, thanks again, and that was wonderful. Thank you again, Preston.
Yes, thank you, Preston. Thank you, Chris, for joining me today and for all your technical support. So until next time, Chris and I wish you light, love, and much happiness. Bye-bye.